Samachalov, page Kuf Nun Hey. The question that we are currently attending to is the need to understand from the perspective of Makib HaKloli. And we explained that there are two levels of Makib HaKloli. There's the Makib HaKloli, the way it is actually from before the Tzimtzum. And then there's Makib HaKloli after the Tzimtzum. Makib HaKloli after the Tzimtzum, this is what we started discussing. And this is called Machshava Hagduma De'ak. Since we can say the word Makib and we don't really focus in to realize what we're talking about, so it's necessary to point it out. Makif means that which encompasses. And encompassment here does not mean it contains it inadvertently. But it means that this encompassment, this is the super principle, the super reality that provides the reality and the highest for all that emanates from it.
And Machshava Hagduma De'ak?
Machshava Hagduma De'ak, this is this Makif.
What do you mean?
At the lower level of Makif, after the Tzimtzum. Machshava Hagduma is this Machshava.
The thought of Adam Kadmon.
Machshava.
Adam Kadmon. This is thought of Adam Kadmon.
This Machshava is the source for all that ultimately emanates in the world. And here, all these things are, contain a Machshava level. And we discussed way back when we first came to this, the difference between Yin and Machshava. Machshava was a seichel, it's a completely different world. So Machshava Hagduma De'ak, this is the Makif that encompasses and gives chayus of the entire world, to all the things that are in the world. So the Rebbe is discussing this briefly but very, very pointedly. One would think that since this Machshava is the provider of chayus for all that, everything that is present in the world, therefore, everything that is present in the world should be bottled and should be imbued and should recognize this Machshava, the highest, where it's coming from. And yet, we are saying that's not the case. There is no compelling element in the creation to recognize Elokus, which is the highest that they live with. As a matter of fact, in the world, there is a possibility, and more than a possibility, to tend off and to seek one's own interests from the perspective of the creation of the creature itself, rather than the makif that actually sustains it and gives it a presence. This we've discussed for a long time, and the principle in this is that this machshava, this kindness of the entire creation from the machshava level, machshava hagduma, is what's called b'pchinas havdalah. It is at a level and a perception that is beyond, that has no worldly quality to it. So we're discussing this with people for some time. And we had all kinds of different mishalim from our own experience that gives us a sense of what it means that you know something and you have no sense of where you know this from. And the significance of this knowledge. And as a result of that, this knowing it does not relate you to the source of where you know it from. And therefore, this knowing could lead you a completely different direction than that which is provided by the source.
Again, what? The knowing does not lead you back to the origin?
That's right. You don't sense in the origin at all.
What do you sense?
Huh?
What is sensed?
You sense yourself, what you know, what you experience,
We
at
said,
your own level.
right, but we said there's a sense of something beyond your own level. But that
No,
doesn't
there is something on your own, but you don't sense it.
at all.
That's right.
But when we use examples like ownership or the way that man senses the beauty of the apple, he is relating to something beyond the practical.
Okay, that's what this Mishalim are for. Who cannot explain what ownership is?
Fine, but with these mashalim, do they not point to the origin or no?
They do.
They
the
do.
Mishalim point. But that's when you focus in and you say, look, this is in fact what happens. But you on your own are not conscious of it. And if you don't pay attention to it, it will continue this way. As a matter of fact, you go into your own home. It's your home. You own it. But what you are aware of is the dining room and the living room and your own chairs. The principle that this is your home. You own this as part of the big world, it completely eludes you.
Until you pay attention to it.
No, I think you pay attention to it in a focused way. Understand, this is a divine gift to you. Because from a worldly perspective, there's no way to understand it.
So,
1 second, Baruch. Yes, there is a local question here.
when you say you're focusing or not focused, this is because of the zeh l'umat zeh that disturbs a person to focus. This is the element that's zeh l'umat zeh in the person.
I would answer it, but I don't see the point of this question.
When you focus and you're not focused, what causes to?
Why do you get distracted from it?
Distracted from that.
Again, we have this motion of the apple. When you eat an apple, what do you experience? The beauty of the apple or the taste of the apple?
Taste.
And what do you focus on? The taste. Period. Who cares about the beauty? Because what's called the kochas pnimiyim, and the kochas are where we experience our life, not when you live. I mean, this is insignificant. It doesn't reach it. It does not reach it.
Unless
The beauty and that which is the supreme quality in it is not touched by the physical experience.
but yet it's made that way that a person could if he worked hard to be able to focus on the godly gift.
And in order, yes, he could, but in order to have that, and the focus on the godly gift is precisely that. He recognizes that there is a godly gift here. It's not his mitzvahs. It's not the world. It's a godly gift. When a person Odom Rishon, after the sin, they were naked. And didn't know what to do with it. As it says, they were totally unaware of their nakedness. God made them aware of it by giving them some garments. God made garments for them to cover them up. What was this awareness that they got from God? They were the same people. What was before the garment and after the garment? When God put garments on them, they realized that there's many different phenomena going on in their lives. One is their own experience. The other is the environment in which they function. They're actually in front of God.
Yeah.
In front of God. This puts them on into a different level completely. Saying, oh yeah, I better have garments. Look where I'm standing.
I always thought they got ashamed because of the sin, but here we're bringing it a different point, that there was an advantage to being ashamed, and that it was not a result of the sin. Was there?
No, because of the sin, they became aware of their own nakedness.
Right, but it sounds like a mila.
This nakedness would not have affected them if they were not made to aware as to where they are functioning.
Mm.
If they were focused only on themselves, they would continue to be like little doggies.
Little dog.
Little dogs running around naked.
They're living in their own mind. This Elikim, godly consciousness, awareness, is a distinct gift from God Himself, making the human being aware that he is not in fact an animal. He's a human being. He is a likeness of God Himself. He can distinguish between one thing and another. And he knows the difference between good and bad. The animals don't know the difference.
And that's the conduit to stay connected with Hashem. The fact that we know, and we try to...
Baruch, it's your turn. What was your question?
I'm sorry, it's my turn?
Yeah, yes, please. But speak up because you don't come out strong over here.
The awareness I'm talking about is the middle. Is that correct?
Yes.
But we're saying that this middle is like a Morgosh cloud, Montgomery,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
So you have bias from the Tumah, but you are completely insensitive to where it's coming from.
That's right.
So what does it mean when we say after that, but still in all al kol
They have some beetle, because this, without any beetle adult, they would not receive chayas from Elokus. Chayas.
So there could be bittul that's low of word gush, but you still have it.
That's right.
How do you still have it?
Ah.
The whole being
All right.
bittul is sensitivity.
Okay. Leave it to the
You know,
professor
that's
to
sensitive at all.
boil it to the end. Yes. So here is the principle that we must understand, must remember and know. Despite the fact that we are worldly creatures, and our primary orientation, self-identity, is on a worldly level, there remains within this worldly consciousness an inherent wonder at least in us as human beings, and even in animals will have to, but in human beings. What is this all about? Where does this presence, the worldly presence, come from? What's its origin? What makes being being? It's inevitable in pursuing this thought process to realize that in fact, yes, I am all I am, and I have all these capabilities, but the reality that maintains me, the reality within which I function, is way beyond me. This is what provides for my wherewithal, for my that encompasses my being, makes my being possible. This principle we have discussed over the past days and weeks, perhaps, in all kinds of different details, all kinds of different degrees, and we recognize that despite the fact that we are kochas pnimiyim, which means we relate and understand things which we can actually grasp and identify individual entities. After all that, and after all that is identified, we still recognize, not only recognize, but to fully relate to something which is superior to that entity. That's in a different realm. That's called the makif, the reality itself. Like we give the Omerizim and show them the table. The table is a structure. But when you see a table, you're not seeing the structure. You're seeing what it represents from a much higher perspective. The dignity of life, the significance of life. For a human being to sit down on the floor is inappropriate. Why not? It's secure and safe. Because he recognizes that he represents a phenomenon, a reality in the world that is not physical. And if he stoops down to the physical, he is insulting, so to speak, that reality that makes him be. Even today, after all these thousands of years, if you see a person putting his hands into the food, or his mouth into the food, getting himself all soiled up with the food. He's eating, just like how the dog eats. You say, what is this human being doing? He forgot that he's a human being. While he's eating. You say, hey, please, mister, get up here. Sit down on the bench. Wash your hands, wash your mouth, take a fork and a spoon and eat neatly. And this we start from very young, from childhood or infancy almost.
So why do we say loba murgash? Seemingly this is quite internalized.
Okay. When your hands get dirty, okay, you're a full-fledged adult. Your hands get dirty. What bothers you? Your hands or the insult that you give to your environment? How can you stand in front of God with dirty hands?
Well, that's what we're pointing out, that man's sense of cleanliness or shame or conscience is the voice announcing you're in front of God.
Yeah, but do you sense that this is the reason it bothers you when your hands are dirty?
Or do you sense the ultimate source?
Yeah.
Or do you sense something more
Or you tell something that
inappropriate? This is
inappropriate
not
for yourself.
Oh. So it's not murgash because we do not relate it all the way back to the origin point, usually.
Because that and it's not murgash because this is so fine. This is a godly sense. And when we, as long as we're involved in our worldly orientation, we can't sense it.
Yeah, but thankfully some kind of message gets through, or we'd be...
That's right. There's some people, some
Yeah,
aspect.
okay.
That's exactly what it says. Even in clippers, there is an aspect of people.
What did that mean? I mean, seemingly Clipper's the one that says it's all about me and has no shame. Shameless, basically.
Clipper is like the peel of an orange. The peel of an orange,
The peel of the orange.
like a peel of an orange. Now, the orange, the fruit is the orange. The peel of the orange is meant to be peeled off and thrown away. Yet, we said the other day, when you pick up an orange and you look at the peel, you say, oh, what a beautiful orange.
Has a peel. The peel has a peel.
Well,
Very
The
funny.
peel has a peel.
Should save that one for Shmuley. You and Shmuley should compare notes.
the peel,
Yeah,
when
so-
you
so-
say this is a peel that should be thrown away. You do recognize it. Why? Because this peel is like just a peel, you have to throw it out. But it serves a tremendous purpose. It protects the orange itself. When you peel it off and you take the apple orange, you say, oh, thank you, Mr. Peel. Because now I have a real beautiful orange. Okay, I think we bring this down to the pulp. Again, we can talk and talk and talk in circles. The ability to recognize and to relate to this is not in our words, not in our hands, it is in our seichel. Not even in our emotion. It's in our seichel. Seichel is a reflection of the neshama itself.
Rooted in the neshama.
Huh?
Which is rooted in the neshama.
This is where we can identify and relate to these differences which are so significant But from the group perspective, from the world perspective, I don't know what you're talking about. I remember walking through the zoo. Maybe zoo makes a difference. There were monkeys on the hill over there. Monkeys sitting and eating bananas. Do you ever observe that? They eat bananas. You know something? They eat bananas. It's interesting to watch. They actually peel the banana off and they eat it.
It's funny the way they throw the peel.
The peel banana, I'd like we should understand and think about it. Is there a difference between the monkey peeling the banana and then having the human being peeling the banana? Does the banana appreciate what it's doing when it's peeling the economic peel?
Does it instinctually?
It's instinctual. Yeah, I know it. Yeah. So what does it? What is the difference? It behooves us to think into it. I'm not gonna. The human being sees it on completely different level. The reason you peel the banana is not because it can't eat the peel, but because the peel is protecting the banana and representing the banana on a pure level. Thank God for the peel. The peel is not just something to throw away. All right. So we're back to the monkeys.
You want some tissue?
Yeah.
I get it.
You
Okay.
got it. Okay. So this is important, Rebbe says. Even in klippah that are tending towards the worldly impurity. There too, there's a thank you much.
This has a border on it if you don't want to rub the
There's an element.
lens.
There's an element of beetle, even there. Beetle means there's an element of sensitivity. Beetle means that you're sensitive you're sensitive to a more subtle truth. Not something that touches you and that can be translated at your level. You can only relate to it if you're book. If you forget about your own interpretation of things and you see the thing, what's going on at the divine level. This beetle is completely superfluous, so to speak, from the perspective of the experience of the creature. And yet, this beetle is phenomenally important for the creature. Because it is this beetle that relates it to the highest of the king. It allows it to accept the highest. I think we discussed it many times before that it's not necessary to lead every time through all the steps and all that. But something that bothers me and says, you better say this. And thus I'm going to say it. Bothers me that to pass something over. I've said many times, life comes to a person, physical life comes to a person through breathing. And he thinks that he is breathing by his own action, by drawing the air in with his own koyach. And this is a total misunderstanding. And we said many times, if it were so, it would be a torture. He is breathing because the air is pushed into his nostrils. This inner idea is being pushed in his nostrils is not via a tube. It is due to the entire environment of air. This is the magic of air. And if he refuses to accept this magic, and he says, no, wait a second, I'm going to take that which I can do with my own koiches. He is then disabling the highest to come to him. Very simple. If he insists to accept only that which he, through his own action, bring into his nostrils, rather than that which is put into him and given to him from a higher, from a bigger source, he will not be able to live. His life will be a torture as well. Okay. And this is the trial that there has to be. As a beetle, there's a modicum of beetle to recognize you're living because life itself is making you live, not you taking this life. This modicum of beetle is absolutely necessary. Because without that, there is no way you can receive chayas from the course. And chayas is exclusively from the course. Worldliness does not represent chayas. Even the air that you breathe and all that does represent chayas. It is the insistence that the air should enter your nostrils, not the air, the presence of the air. This is a divine element in the world itself. Okay. Yesh loim ois samachal. Yesh loim and oi. Furthermore, it can be said in regard to this principle that there has to be an element of bitul in the creation. Even klipas must have an element of bitul, which facilitates them with the ability to receive chayas from miracles. Elokus is that super truth which totally eludes the definition by our seichel. Elokus can only be related to and identified by accepting, not by you identifying and taking. You can't take Elokus.